One of the reasons why the use of AI, artificial intelligence, should be encouraged in school environments of all kinds is because it holds enormous benefits that may not be recognized. And so here's an example of this. I got this software called Designer. It's at DESIGNRR.io. And the software has, it seems to be a chat GPT based generative AI that is called Word Genie. And they have all these commercials, especially if you're an author and you do things, searches, and look for workshops online about writing novels or other kind of books. You might see the commercials that, especially if you're a person who wants to earn money from writing books. They have these commercials that talk about you can write an entire ebook and during your lunch break, and the whole entire ebook, and it's beautiful, it's stunning, and $27 a month, and blah blah blah, right? And so I've used the software to generate entire ebooks, and while they require a lot of editing for it not to be what is considered to be AI slop, and this is especially if you give it too many of a certain kind of prompts, like if you want it to speak to too many audiences or you have too many different subjects, it gets confusing and repetitive and doesn't really work very well. I learned this because I've generated dozens and dozens of ebooks and looked through them from beginning to end to see what was going on here. So in that process of learning, I learned one, that first, I don't think that it's a good idea to write your entire books using AI. However, that's not a hard and fast rule, and I am not telling people what to do. I have no right to. You very well can. I actually published a book that I have for 99 cents on Amazon called How to Write a Book with AI, or something like that. I don't even know, because I didn't even read it. The only thing that I wrote in the book was the introduction that said this book was written entirely by AI, and you should read it so you can see what the AI signatures look like and identify writing that's made by AI. And that was a while ago, maybe 2 years ago now. And so much of the AI language in the landscape has changed. Although I'm going to look at the book soon. I'm actually going to read it as part of what I am calling lo-fi audiobook podcast. And it's one of the ways that I'm generating income by doing something new. Instead of me relying on, for example, Amazon's Audible and putting my audiobooks up there and trying to do that, I found a little bit of a hack where I use my podcasting software and I just read in my car or at different cafes that I go to, and I read my ebook that I've created, and I make a recording and I put up different episodes as different chapters or what have you, different sections of the book, and then I've created an entire audiobook product. And it's unique because it has different kinds of background noise and different environments. It could sound like I'm driving, like I am right now. You can hear those sounds. So, but back to why I believe that AI should be encouraged in school is because of my experience, my extensive experience of reading AI-generated ebooks from cover to cover, from beginning to end. Is I've realized how it writes and what it actually does and what it's comparable to. And it's comparable to basically a research partner. It's the same. Basically, what it does is something similar to how you would attempt to amass a bunch of information by using Google as a search engine, or using various different books that you have in your own library, physical books or ebooks, whatever. Any kind of written material you have. They could be scientific papers, they could, be research papers, they could be books, ebooks, essays, any kind of literature or reading material that you can get your hands on that you would usually be using to research and provide information and references for your own book, being a writer writing in some of the more traditional ways. When you generate a book using AI, what happens is it creates a book from beginning to end, and it gives you all this information. And what's really beautiful about that is that you can simply start to read that. And as you read through it, you can, a couple things, start rewriting it more in a way that you would be speaking, right? And as you're doing that, you go paragraph by paragraph, you can then cross-reference the information on a search engine or in a book that you have and type it in, it's saying this, or you can copy a whole thing, a whole paragraph or a few sentences and put that into a search engine and then see what comes back, if it's true or not. And if it is, then you leave it and modify it in your own voice. If not, then you change it for the real information in your own voice. And what happens is if you do that line by line, paragraph by paragraph, chapter by chapter, go through the entire book doing this, what you're essentially doing is you're being a proofreader and an editor, and you're simultaneously learning information and looking it up. And so you're getting repetition with that information because you're looking it up and fact checking it and so on and so forth. And by the time you get done with it, the first time, once you put in all the information, then you've learned a lot more than you did and knew a lot more about that subject than you did before you started this process. And then what you do is you read it again. Once you've done all the editing, every single paragraph and chapter all the way to the end, then you start again at the beginning, of course, after taking a break, maybe take a break a day or two or whatever, and then you go back to it with fresh eyes, fresh brain, right? And you read it again from beginning to end. Maybe you just read one chapter and take a break and then go back to the next day, read another chapter. And as you do, you'll find more things that you may want to edit to put it in your own voice. And again, I'm saying put it in your own voice if this is something that you're going to publish or turn in as an assignment, right? And you continue to go through polishing it. And while you're doing that, what's happening? You're proofreading. But what is proofreading essentially? Proofreading is reading. And reading is one way of learning. And so you're getting this repetition by doing this proofreading, which is reading. And then you're doing this editing. So you're having to do a little bit of critical thinking and analysis of what you're doing and how you're wording it and making sure that it matches up correctly with all the other information. And you're stitching this project together. And taking this time to do that, what happens is you start to master that information because you've spent so much time with it. And then I would recommend that after you've done the second proofreading, you set it aside and then you go back to it again and read it all the way through. And, you highlight certain sections, take notes on it. You essentially what happens is that in the same way that you would read an entire book on your own to learn something or have an experience, you're essentially doing that when the AI generates an original book for you. But the benefit is that once you're done with it, you can claim it as your own. And especially if you've made the types of edits and put it into your own voice, as I've suggested, and basically just gave you the formula. It's really easy. It gave you the game plan. It's super simple. It simply requires generating, proofreading, and editing, and creating an original document that way. And so how does this answer that question? How does this line up with what I'm saying about that students should be encouraged to use AI? Well, encouraged in this way, because what then happens is now you've learned a subject because you're really hands-on and you're working on it. And it's not, it's different, but it's very similar to working with a team. A lot of times in classes, you'll have students get together in groups to work on a project. And so it's all of their different input, all of their different effort. Like if students were doing a research paper together, or even in the professional world, right? If you have scientists that are doing a research paper on some new technology or some medical process or whatever, and let's say there's 3 or 4 people, it's similar to those people doing this book report or doing this assignment in class, where everybody has a job, they're all doing their own different kinds of research, and then they get together and they work on composing this paper together. Well, working with the AI in the way that I've laid out is very similar to that, except you just have a non-argumentative assistant that is capturing, finding and capturing and organizing that information much faster than any people could ever do. And I see everything being okay with that. I mean, because once again, it's not that much different than if you were to be doing the research on your own. This is what I'm saying here essentially is that it is a very quick way to do research. That's what I'm saying. It's a hyper fast way to do research on the subject that you want to do research on to create a book. It is a very quick way to write a book, especially if you don't just leave it as it was generated by the AI word for word. It's a super fast way to search for and find all this different information and put it together into one place that you can read from beginning to end, and then proofread and edit it and learn from it and make it your own. I think that is more than okay. And I've done that, dozens of times and then never published the results of it. I just learned something. And then what I would do with that information later is it's in my head, and then I would apply it to other things that I write. And so what I've done, I have a library of ebooks that I've created with AI on a subject that are my own books that nobody has ever seen before. So here's another thing. You have a tool like that. So for example, I forget how much I pay for a year for the pro level or whatever it is I have with Designer. But it's a year, and it's between $100 and $200. I forget how much it is right now, but their base model is like $27. But think about what I'm going to say here. You can fill up your own ebook library with original books that you can then tailor to yourself and in your own voice, and have a library of books that nobody else has ever seen on various different subjects that you want that you've paid a one-time yearly price for, and you can generate an unlimited amount of books from this and create all these completely new things that'll be between, 20 something and maybe 100 pages long. So they're not really that long. And you've amassed this library of articles and short ebooks because you've worked with the AI to generate these different written materials. I mean, it's amazing. You can learn so much on almost any subject. Give it a prompt, give it a title, a subject that you want it to write on, have it generate the book, read through it. Nobody else has to see it, but it's an amazing reference, and it'll teach you how to create certain sentences, how to organize things. It can help you with punctuation and grammar and various different things, because what I've learned a lot of how to write, and even the way that I speak, is because I've read so much and I continue to read so much. And that's why I have developed, I mean, my reading level, there's no reason for me to be humble about this, but my reading level is off the charts, because I've realized that there's pretty much almost nothing that you can put in front of me in the English language that I won't understand. I pretty much understand 99.9999999 to the 100 places of everything that I read, because I've seen so many words, and if things I've come across, I've looked them up if I didn't understand it, and I've defined so many words and put them into context and looked at them in so many different ways and read and reread, so that I've gotten to the point where I've learned so much. So again, this is simply a way to amass a library that you can learn from. It's sort of a hack where you can go out and create your own library of books that you can even go, if you want to, and have them printed out. I actually did that with a couple of books where I put them in the Amazon marketplace and printed them out so I could have bound books sent to me, and then I deleted them off of Amazon. You can even go look on Amazon to see there's a bunch of books and my other bookstore at books.by/uniquilibrium, that there are books that were there and that I took them off. That says out of print or no longer available, because I did that so that I could have the books and just pay for author copies. And so now I have all these books in my library that are completely 100% original. I mean, this is just gold right here, what I just said. Now, and this really, again, is why I think that students should be encouraged to use AI, because you can learn from it. It's not cheating. It's a way of generating text that you can learn from. That's it, plain and simple. Everything is okay with that. That is all good. And as I was speaking this, I just gave a couple of gold nuggets for researchers and authors and people who just in general like to learn and read, or people who want to create books, or who buy books all the time. You can pay this one-time price and make a whole bunch of books and learn a whole bunch of subjects. You become a better reader. You become a better speaker. You can, I mean, it provides so much. There's so many good things about this that I can go on and on. And I'm going to talk more about this, but it's an amazing thing that you can do. And another thing I was going to say, and I'll just end with this, but you can also use, for example, I use DeepSeek R1 to help me to write with. And I have this method that I call dictation, transcription, and summarization. And so just like right now with this recording that I'm making, I will have Galaxy AI make it's automatically going to make a transcript of it once I hit the button that says transcribe. And even though the transcripts are somewhat terrible, I don't really like them that much, they're not that good, I will then feed the transcript to DeepSeek R1 AI and sometimes to Google Gemini, and they will analyze it and tell me what they think about it. And then I might ask them to give me a summary, and then I might ask them to help me organize it into a book, and then I'll start writing a paper and or a book or some essays about it, and then I'll publish them. But I'm just using it as a working partner to create literature, because I want to create a legacy. I want to leave things behind that are going to be helpful to people because they were helpful for me. And I know that at least 25% of the people that encounter the material that I create, it's going to be helpful to them. I understand this from being a student and learning from the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, that 25% of the people that you encounter are naturally going to be suggestible to you, basically be hypnotizable by you just by your presence, by who you are, by the way that you speak. And so I translate this over into that people who are going to also be into the same things that I am, because that type of suggestibility transfer over. They are suggestible to the same type of things that I'm suggestible to, is what I'm saying, is how I also interpret that. That's another extension of how I'm interpreting that. So this is an amazing opportunity that we have, and it's an amazing opportunity for people to create and, like I said, build a library and learn. You can become a better student using AI. It just all depends on how you use it. You know, it is cheating if you just decide to write a book with AI or hire somebody to do it, and then you never read it. You just turn it in and you don't know what it's about. But if you take the time to generate it, to proofread it, to edit it, to proofread it and edit it again, to proofread it again, and learn what it actually is all about, and now you've made it yours, that is an amazing way to benefit and positively gain from using the technology. I am Hakeem Ali-Bocas Alexander.